Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are live again. We are live again. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. This is number two of the year. We going strong. We going hard for now. Let's keep up this momentum. Leave a like on your way in. Thanks for stopping in. Subscribe if you're new. If you never heard of me, my name is Dgotsauce, aka Diedrich Duglin. And we are here to give you some solid content, some solid news, some solid updates, and talk at the same time, because that's what we like to do. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the stream. Make sure you hit a like on your way in. Make sure you hit a like on your way out. Make sure you hit a dislike if you're not messing with me. It don't matter what you do, man. I thank you for tuning in regardless. But today we got some special topics. I want to talk to y'all about. And it's nothing crazy, but it is crazy at the same time. Let's get into this first one. Draymond Green is back. Draymond Green is back. Make sure you leave a like, man. Make sure you leave a like. Draymond Green is back after a 12-game suspension. And we're all a little confused still. We're all a little confused. That we got to be honest here. Is Draymond ready to come back? That's the question we're all asking. Is he ready to come back? Is he truly changed? Or is he going to come back to his same old ways? I guess we'll find out. Let's hear what they got to say.
The NBA League office has reinstated Warriors forward Draymond Green from suspension. Green has missed the last 12 games after striking Sun center Jusuf Nurkic in the face on December 12th. The NBA said the length of that suspension took into account Green having a history of unsportsmanlike acts. He's been ramping up his return to action and will rejoin the Warriors on Sunday. ESPN reports that Green is going to need about a week to get back into game shape before making his return. And for more on this story, time to bring in CBS Sports NBA writer and insider Bill Ryder. And Bill,
before we get into it, is Draymond the most dirtiest player the NBA has ever played, has ever had? Is Draymond Green the most dirtiest player the NBA has played? Like, that's a true question we got to ask ourselves, because it doesn't make sense to why this man keeps doing what he's doing, and then he just come back like nothing happened and doing something else the next week. It don't make sense, man. Like, he gets suspended the most out of everybody. He gets sat the most out of everybody. He gets talked to the most out of everybody. Besides what happened to Ja Morant, but Ja Morant was off court, so this is a little different. But let's continue.
This story has had so many moving parts, as it's gone on. So I'm curious, what went in to this decision to bring or reinstate Draymond Green at this time?
Yeah, you talk to folks, Chris, in the NBA, and they'll tell you that, as you noted, the length of the suspension had to do, from their perspective, with his history of troubling actions on the court, and if you want to include the Jordan Poole situation, off the court, although that was obviously during practice. It involved conversations between the league office, his team, himself, and his agent to make sure that he was making the process that they wanted behind the scenes, to understand why, from their perspective, this was not acceptable. And from the perspective of people around the NBA who maybe aren't as kind in their reading of what's going on, they think it was the earliest that the NBA was able to reinstate Draymond Green and not have any kind of blowback in terms of public relations. So, like a lot of things with Draymond, it's a Rorschach test. People see what they want to see, but it feels like 12 games and about a month away from basketball came down to the fact the NBA felt like he put enough time. He had talked to specialists behind the scenes, and there's a sense, at least from the Warriors, not only do they need him, but they think he's in a better headspace as he returns.
Yeah, they definitely need him in a better.
Now, does Draymond make the Warriors better, or does he not make them better? Because At the end of the day, they're kind of playing the same way that they played since. They're 7-5 since Draymond has been suspended. And we're obviously hoping that Draymond is actually getting the help he needs because this is a serious matter. He's over here slapping people in the face, giving people elbows. He's doing the most. He's even fighting his own teammates. Not to say like people don't get mad. Of course, we know people get mad, but what he has done for the past couple of years, come on, man. Everybody knows what he's been doing, man. So we got to take this into consideration. Is he actually going to make the Warriors better, more contending after he's back? Is a great question.
Their headspace, because when he's on the floor and he's active, they have a much different chemistry with that team. Now, given the fact that he's already missed 12 games, Bill, how do you think this is all going to go when he makes his return? Because he can't just come in the lineup and play day one. As we mentioned, he has to ramp up before he finds his way on that court.
You're right, and I think you make a really good point. I mean, this is on the court. They clearly need him. They have been problematic the entire season, at least at the expectations and standards, Chris, that I think we all have for the Warriors over the last nearly 10 years of dominance and success. They need his defense. They have been, among their many problems, really poor defensively, as good as they always are offensively. It's when they're defensively excellent in tandem with their offense that they're the team that we've come to know. And so they need Draymond Green, just from a tactical perspective on the floor to anchor that defense. But I want to make this comparison because what's coming out of the Warriors camp is not the same that came out of Memphis when John Morant came back. Just from a basketball and a personality perspective, a team perspective, when Morant came back almost to a man, maybe to a man, that team wanted John Morant. They believed in him. They see him as a leader. Whatever people's views of John Morant away from basketball, his team wanted him there. That locker room welcomed him. It's a different reality with Draymond Green. There are some people in that Warriors locker room who are tired from their perspective of his antics and his actions. There are some people who feel like, as a guy who asserts himself, he needs to follow his own advice. So I think a big part of him coming back is not just going to be, Chris, what he does on the floor, getting himself back into game shape. As you noted, ESPN says it's going to take about a week. That sounds right, talking to folks around the league of what this would look like for any other player. But there's also, I think, a reality of his reentry into a locker room where he's got to make sure that his presence is a net positive, which it certainly has been at times in his career.
That's the thing that we was just talking about. Is he actually going to bring some type of energy that the Golden State Warriors need to make it to that playoff push? Because right now the Golden State Warriors is looking sus. Chris Paul just went down with injury. He's about to have surgery. Chris Paul can never stay healthy. It don't make sense. He's coming off the bench and he's still not getting the proper rest that he needs for his old body. I think Chris Paul should retire. That's just me, but nonetheless, Draymond and the Warriors 10-10 without Draymond for the entire season. That's 20 games. I don't know if all of them were suspension, but I know at least more than half of them were for sure. 7-8 with Draymond. They have a losing record with Draymond. And they have a 50-50 record without Draymond. So is he honestly making them better if he comes back? Do they need him? Do they actually need him? Yes, he has a great defensive presence. Yes, he's their defensive anchor, but is he going to make them contenders when he comes back? We don't know because he might crack the bottle again. You get me?
In Golden State off the floor and not what we've seen in the pool situation. Kevin Durant would be an example he'd point to if you talk to KD, honestly, and not a negative that at times we've seen from Draymond Green in terms of leadership in that locker room.
I want to go back to something you said about how players in the organization or people in the organization are frustrated, right, with his acts and all that. So do you think there's a scenario here, Bill, where they potentially trade Draymond Green this season, or do you feel like everything is going to resolve itself at the end of the season, whether they decide to keep him or do something else?
Chris, it's a great question. If you'd asked me that question a year ago in the exact same circumstance, I would have said zero chance he gets traded because Bob Myers, who is then in charge of basketball operations, is a Draymond guy.
Draymond, does he have trade value? Yes. Is it a lot? Is it a lot, honestly? Like, who wants Draymond right now? If you trade Draymond, it's gonna be for like spare change.
Bob Myers is gone.
Spare change.
He's doing television. There's a new person in charge of basketball operations. So the answer that I'm going to give you is I don't know. Now, I've asked people that are a part of that Warriors organization or come from that Warriors organization, and they're highly skeptical they move on from Draymond Green. Just gave him, what, a 4-year, I think, $100 million deal not that long ago. He's still really close with Steph Curry. And as you noted, and as everybody knows, at least on the floor, when it works out, Draymond Green is critical to what the Warriors do, especially defensively. And people still within that organization believe, right or wrong, he's important when they're at their best, what the Warriors do on defense, as Steph Curry is to what they do on offense. So I'm skeptical.
I disagree with that. I disagree. Maybe the old Draymond, but this new Draymond, he's not doing what he used to do. He's old. He's not doing what he used to do. And I'm glad Draymond is getting the help he needs. I'm glad he's getting the counseling he needs. But let's be honest here, he's not doing what he got to do, man. Like, he's getting we're talking about Draymond more getting suspended this season, past seasons, than his actual game. Like, we're looking for that Draymond to come back out, that dog that we seen years ago. But we're not seeing it because it's probably faded away.
And don't think that he's going to be traded. But it's a different regime now, Chris, and obviously a different circumstance of what Draymond Green is coming back from. So I don't think it's an impossibility. It's certainly not imminent right now.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see as the window clearly is closing for this dynasty with the Warriors. Bill Ryder, we appreciate you as always. All right, here is the Warriors' upcoming schedule.
It's good to hear, though, that Draymond is back. It is good to hear. I just hope that he gets the help he needs. That's really all we're looking to see. I hope he gets the help he needs. Thank you again for tuning in. If you are tuned in, please leave a like on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're streaming in from. We appreciate it over here on this side. And sub if you new, sub to the gang, man. This is your boy Dgotsauce, man. We got another topic. This topic is a topic that it brings a lot of attention in. Because this man right here, no matter how you put it, no matter how you twist it, no matter what you say, what side you're on, this guy right here, he's always in headlines. He might be the most entertaining president the world has ever seen. And he could possibly be the most racist president the world has ever seen also. But he has a lot of support. He is gaining a lot more support, especially since that President Biden is fumbling the United States. Let's talk about it. President Trump. The Supreme Court agrees to weigh whether Trump can be kicked off the ballot in Colorado. This is some big news. And we're going to find out what's going on. I'm not really the biggest politic type of guy, but whenever politics come up, it seems to always draw arguments. It always seems to be one-sided or you can never agree on something. Politics is annoying, respectfully. Politics is very annoying. And it's hard to choose a side sometimes because, some days are good for presidents and some days are terrible. But let's get into it.
Some breaking news. just into us right now in the last couple of minutes. The Supreme Court is agreeing to weigh whether former President Donald Trump can be kicked off the ballot in Colorado, as the Colorado Supreme Court has ruled. And as you know, that ruling from the Colorado Supreme Court was put on hold while this was appealed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Danny Savalos is joining us now to give us the breakdown. Danny, I understand that they're going to hear it on February 8th, which is the same day as the Nevada caucus.
Yes, exactly. And the issue here is that even though the Supreme Court may be taking up this Colorado case, they may decide a universal issue such as whether or not Donald Trump is an officer within the meaning of Section 3, which was a big issue in Colorado. But all these other states, it doesn't necessarily dispose of those other states unless and until, arguably, those states have a petition before the court. So this may end up being a piecemeal process if the only case the court is hearing is the one in Colorado.
So February 8th.
Okay, now Danny, I'm just reading through
February
this
8th.
on my laptop.
February 8th, Donald Trump is going to be in court. He's going to be fighting and pleading his case against why he should be on the Colorado battle, the Colorado ballot. And yeah, this is probably not going to be the only time he has to fight against this, because it seems like every other state now and then is trying to come up and say and stir up some drama. It's seeming like it. And I'm wondering if this is fair stuff or if Trump is really like a bad person, because from the last time I checked, Biden took some stuff from the White House too. Biden said some reckless stuff too. I know this is more about January 6th, but we got to look at it both sides. Both parties is weirdos. Both parties got a bunch of weirdos doing a bunch of weird stuff, and we got to talk about it. But let's continue.
Top as we talk here, we've got the Maine challenge as well, which is the most immediate other challenge that's gone all the way to the Maine Secretary of State.
Exactly right. And look at this is a great example of how different these cases are, even though they seem so similar. In Colorado, the two major issues was Donald Trump an insurrectionist, and was he an officer within the meaning of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment? Similar issues in Maine. But in Maine, they went through the administrative process, through the Secretary of State. In Colorado, they went through the courts. What a huge difference. And actually, legally, they could have gone through the Secretary of State in Colorado. And now in Maine, it may go through the courts. But what if, for example, a court determines that this is what's called a non-justiciable question, something the courts can't hear at all? Then you have a situation where Colorado, that decision may be null and void. And meanwhile, the administratively decided one in Maine could be legitimate. The point is, this is becoming very quickly a patchwork quilt of different decisions on the issue of whether Donald Trump can remain on the ballot.
And importantly,
this is one thing about politics that I don't understand, right? Both sides got people in high places. So either way, it's going to be a pulling and a tug and pull type of thing, because if half of the people in the Supreme Court are Republicans and the other half is Democrats, how are we going to come to a conclusion? Especially if the Republicans like their person and the Democrats like their person. How are we gonna come to a resolution if everybody's fighting against everybody? But what I like to see in the future is, both parties coming together and bringing the right information to the people, bringing the right resources to the people, and actually making some moves that the people agree with. Not just particular people, obviously, but generally the entire population. If the entire population could get on the same page, man, we would be a better place. So I'll be honest with you. We'd be in a much, much better place. But You know, that's politics for you. It's one side or the other side. And choose wisely
The Colorado
because
decision is based on the 14th Amendment. The
it's looking
Colorado
crazy out
Supreme
here.
Court ruled, in fact, ruled in contrary to what the appeals court in Colorado had already said. The Colorado Supreme Court said, sorry, the 14th Amendment does not allow somebody who engaged in an insurrection to actually be on the ballot for president. It seems to me one challenge, according to many legal scholars, is he's not been convicted of being involved in an insurrection.
That is the weakest argument, in my opinion, for the Trump team, because when you look at the language of the Constitution, which often suffers from being a little too general and a little too vague and written in old-fashioned language, but when you look at the language of the 14th Amendment, it doesn't anywhere require a conviction for insurrection. And I think most leading scholars would agree. I think there's almost universal agreement on this, except for maybe on the Trump side, that you don't need to be convicted of insurrection. That insurrection determination is kind of left open. So I to be a conviction, but what it has to be, how it's determined, that part is a little unclear.
And I'm also noting here that now there's talk in Texas of a retaliatory move from the lieutenant governor of kicking Biden off of the ballot in Texas.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, and that, of course, is always the risk with...
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? It's either one side or the other side. You can't, there's no in the middle. Now that they doing this to Trump, the Republicans is gonna come straight back and do it to Biden. It's just common sense. It's just common sense. And then they're gonna make up some crazy story that Biden did that should get him kicked off the ballot. And it just don't make sense. Why don't y'all just let him rock? Obviously, if they doing some wild stuff, like yes, Trump tweeting, man, y'all should raid the Capitol building. Yes, Trump tweeting that was out of pocket. But I don't think Trump, at the end of the day, I don't think he really thought that people was about to raid this. I don't think so. But because of that, now we're here. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen in the next couple months, especially with this ballot stuff. It's the first time in my lifetime, at least as a grown adult, seeing this type of nonsense going on with the presidential candidates. It just doesn't make sense. It don't make sense. This is not politics. This is entertainment at its finest. Let's continue.
These kinds of political judicial maneuvers, is that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And it should be no surprise that Republicans will start trying to do the same thing. But they're not going to have as easy a path, because there is the insurrection clause in the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. You have a pretty good set of facts when you look at January 6th.
Real quickly, is this a quick turnaround in terms of what we expect from the Supreme Court? Do you expect a decision quickly? And are you surprised that they've come out and said they will take the case as quickly as they did?
I'm not surprised that they're taking it. It was a near certainty that they would take it, and not surprised that they did so quickly. We're often asked, legal analysts like me, how soon, what's the timeline? And for most of these cases, we have only our own cases of people involving people that no one's ever heard of. And so the timelines we're used to are weeks and months. But when it is such a critical constitutional issue like this, it really isn't a surprise that the Supreme Court would stop what they're doing and focus on a decision like this with such monumental, earth-shattering implications. It's no surprise they move at breakneck speed for these cases. But for your
imagine all of this happening, right? All of this happening, and you still end up seeing President Trump or Donald Trump win. Imagine all of this. Like, the people would be on his side. The people are going to be partying. They are going to throw a huge party. this party's going to be big, and everybody's going to hear about it. That MAGA party is going to be next level. That's somebody might want to pull up to that. I'm just saying, not me, but somebody might want to pull up to that. This is crazy though. Imagine him still winning after everything they are throwing at him. They're throwing every arsenal in the book to make sure he can't become president again. And is it fair play or is it politics? We'll see.
Run-of-the-mill case involving some guy you've never heard of. Don't expect this kind of treatment.
All right, Danny, thank you very much. Let's quickly go now to NBC's Vaughn Hilliard, who's on the campaign trail. He's in Iowa, where President Trump is campaigning this evening. And I guess, Vaughn, it's too early to have any sort of immediate reaction from the crowd behind you, but it's pretty clear what the Trump campaign has felt about the Colorado and the Maine decisions to take him off the ballot.
Exactly, Tom. And all this is running perpendicular to the political. The day of those oral arguments on February 8th is the day of the Nevada caucus. Of course, it's the Iowa caucus, the New Hampshire primary, and then the Nevada caucus. And this here, the timeline that the Supreme Court is working on allows them to make a ruling potentially early enough if they were to affirm the Colorado Supreme Court's decision disqualifying him from a ballot, that would still leave the great share of the Republican electorate around the country to select a different candidate for president of the United States. Just 2 weeks after that is the South Carolina primary. Obviously, the stakes of this are high. I'll let our legal team get into the specifics. But Donald Trump is landing as we speak right now into Iowa for 2 days of campaign rallies. We are in rural Sioux Center, Iowa. Of course, we're going to talk to the campaign team. You could very well expect Donald Trump to take this head on when he gets on stage. Donald Trump, to be clear, a great many legal experts expect the Supreme Court to leave him on the ballot. Donald Trump is concerned about this decision in front of the Supreme Court. His own attorney, Alina Habba, said just that 2 days ago.
That's interesting. That is interesting. You would think that Donald Trump is not really concerned about the arrows that he's getting shot with, but that's interesting. He's actually concerned. He actually feels like this might affect his president's candidacy, which is news to me. I thought that President Trump was or Donald Trump, I thought he was a tough guy. He can take anything. He can do whatever he wants. He can get away with anything. But it's looking like he's actually not. He's got a little bit of fear in him. But I think if they didn't throw any of this stuff at him and they just went at it 1v1, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, I think we know who's going to win that. I think we know who's winning that.
And suggesting his fear is based on the own Supreme Court justices that he nominated and that were appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, 3 of them during his 4 years in office, Tom. And he fears that, in the words of Alina Habba, his attorney, that they could try to appear neutral by ruling against him. It was just 1 year ago, in fact, he put out on a social media post that the Supreme Court always rules against him. Of course, that's not always the case, but on that particular ruling in 2022, they forced him to turn over his tax returns to a congressional House committee that subpoenaed them. So for Donald Trump, there's a lot at stake. The future of his presidential campaign is at stake, and we are just about 10 days away from the Iowa caucus right now. And of course, voters say that they're going to stick with him no matter what. But it's hard to ignore the fact that the Supreme Court is going to be making the determination, more likely than not, whether he's going to be a presidential candidate in 2024, Tom.
You made such a good point there, Vaughn. Real quickly, let you expand on it. He has grown his base with these challenges to his candidacy, with the Colorado decision, with the Maine decision. The question is whether what's happening in the middle, what's happening with independents in this country as this campaign progresses.
Right. That is the issue here. And honestly, when you look at the polling between Iowa and New Hampshire, Tom, you see Nikki Haley performing much better in the state of New Hampshire because in New Hampshire, they allow independent voters to go and take part in the Republican primary process. Here in Iowa, you have to be a registered Republican, and Iowa polling shows him about a 30-point lead. And in New Hampshire, polling has Nikki Haley down anywhere from 4 points to 10 points. So it's a much smaller deficit because we see that independent voters, they're looking for somebody not named Donald Trump. They're looking for somebody not named Joe Biden. But right now, if the Republican electorate has their say, he's winning in polling in every single state. And so, that's where you've seen the RFK Jr. trying to get on the ballot as an independent candidate. This group, No Labels, is trying to create a potential bipartisan presidential ticket to try to cater more toward the middle of the country, people that are dissatisfied with both Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Yeah. Vaughn, you've got an interesting and a long.
The biggest name I heard is Vivek. Vivek is pretty much the next one coming up. I heard DeSantis is he's okay too, but I heard Vivek is really making some noise. So, and he seems to be level-headed. He seems to be more younger. He seems to be more energetic. He seems to be more knowledgeable about certain things. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in the upcoming years too, if he's going to even run again or if he's going to just do his thing right now. But I heard Vivek is making some noise.
Long night ahead of you. Thank you very much. Let's get back to Danny real quickly. Danny, I've listened to conservative commentators on this who come down on both sides of this issue. Some say that they expect the Supreme Court will reaffirm the Colorado decision, and others say the Colorado decision doesn't have a chance in heck of being supported. What is your takeaway?
I think the takeaway is to look at this as playing the odds. So no matter what side you're on, you look at all the different, I guess you can call them opportunities, but you can look at switches that have to be aligned for Donald Trump to be kicked off the ballot. And for example, take a look at the Colorado Original District Court, the trial court. It concluded that Donald Trump was an insurrectionist after an evidentiary hearing. But even though he was an insurrectionist, it also concluded that he was not an officer within the meaning of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Therefore, he wasn't covered. Therefore, he would remain on the ballot. Then it goes to the Colorado Supreme Court. They're sharply divided 4-3. So that was a close call. But so many things need to line up for Donald Trump to remain off the ballot. The failure of any one of them, and Donald Trump remains on the ballot. For example, we talked about whether or not the courts can even hear this issue, or whether it's really committed to another branch, to an administrative branch. Maybe Maine got it right by doing it administratively. So that's an issue as well. There may be several other reasons why a court, the Supreme Court in particular, can conclude that Donald Trump stays on. Everything needs to line up perfectly for those who want to kick him off the ballot, for him to remain off the ballot. So if you're just placing a bet, the odds are going to be in favor of Donald Trump staying on the ballot. If for no other reason, then almost everything, all these issues have to line up perfectly for him to remain off the ballot. Any one of them failing, he remains on the ballot.
Danny, great expertise. Thank you very much. And Von Hilliard, thank you.
That was a good one. That was a good one. Honestly, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next couple months. I mean, it's been entertaining so far. It's been very entertaining. So I'm looking forward to see who's going to take off in the next couple months. If Vivek is even going to say anything that is going to, boost his engagement, boost his visibility. But right now, it's clearly a blowout. It's clearly a blowout. Trump is up big. Biden, he's the only guy that he's got to worry about on that side. But man, the Democrats need some help, man. The Democrats need some help, bro, because Biden's looking sad out there. Biden is looking sad. Kamala Harris is looking sad. We haven't even heard from her since she's been in office. I'll be honest with you. I haven't heard nothing about what Kamala Harris has been doing. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens. February 8th is a big day. And yeah, that is going to be interesting to see. This next video is obviously we got to bring this to the attention of the people too, because there's a lot of war. There's a lot of war, however you want to pronounce it. There's a lot of war out there. This first started off with Russia versus Ukraine. Now we've moved into Israel versus Hamas. And the U.S. seems to be in both of them, although we are thousands of miles away. When is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? But get this, right? Israel and Hamas is one thing. But we just got some news that Iran has some words to say. Iran says Israel will be destroyed. That's tough. Iran has now entered into the conversation. That's tough. Now, I'm not sure if we should be worried about this. I'm not sure if we should be okay with it happening. But last time I checked, the United States is on Israel's side. And they got something to say. Iran says Israel will be destroyed and threatens the U.S. for explosions. Hey, let's get into this. Let's get into it.
My name is Josh Breslow, and I'm here to bring you all of your top stories from across the country and the world. You are taking a live look at this hour over the Israel-Lebanon border as we do get to the latest details developing over the last several hours here on the war between Israel and Hamas. Israel now saying that troops by ground, air, and sea have struck over 100 terror targets in the Gaza Strip, including operational command centers and military sites. And Iran's president saying the October 7th massacre in southern Israel, dubbed Operation Al-Aqsa Flood by the Hamas terror group, will bring about the downfall of Israel. He made the comments while speaking at the funerals for the nearly 100 victims killed in bombings by ISIS. Mourners there heard chanting, "Revenge, revenge, death to America and death to Israel." I want to talk about all of these developments, so let's bring in Mark.
Is there about to be a World War III? Come on, I know the end times is near, but come on. Is there about to be a World War III? Am I the only one thinking this? Or is you thinking it too? Is you thinking about this too? I'm thinking about it. I don't see how we can now back out of any of the two of these wars that we in. I don't even know why we in them, but we in both of them. And it don't look like we backing down, and it don't look like they backing down. And now more people is tuning in. Is this about to be World War III? Is the question that we should be asking ourselves.
Mark Chandler, the Director of Government Relations and Professor of Practice in the Department of Intelligence and Security Studies at Coastal Carolina University, and also a former senior intelligence defense official. As always, Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to join us to help break down all of the latest here. We appreciate it.
Breakdown, man.
You're welcome, Josh, and good morning to you and all your viewers today.
Good morning. Well, first off, I do want to talk about the comments that were made there by Iran's president. We've heard, obviously, this kind of rhetoric before, but what do you make of the comments there made by Iran's president saying that essentially this right here will bring about the downfall of Israel?
Well, Josh, that's the mantra that Iran has had since the revolution in 1979, and they've never really let up on that. And I think what it shows is Iran's willingness to continue to push and keep the Middle East destabilized. I mean, Iran's objective is the complete eradication of Israel, so we need to keep that as the backdrop. But this week, and since we...
So I didn't know that. I didn't know Iran and Israel already had their beef. I didn't know that. And these dudes is neighbors pretty much. I guess Russia and Ukraine is neighbors too, so I guess that don't mean nothing, but this is crazy. This is crazy. If Iran joins the war, just because, oh my gosh, just because a little part of Gaza, which is in Israel, am I correct or am I wrong? If a little slip of Israel on the border is where Hamas is. Hamas has now attacked Israel. Israel's now retaliating and killing plenty of innocent people at the same time with the US's help. And then now Iran is like, nah, what y'all doing over here? We got something to say. We want some bodies too.
We talked on Monday has been a significant week in activity out there. And I think what Iran is looking at is, one, the killing of the Hamas leader in Beirut on Tuesday. That was a significant blow to the planning operations. He was a key figure between Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. So that kind of was in.
New news. Did not know that they killed off the Hamas head. I didn't know that. That is some big news right there. The Hamas head is gone now. What is they about to do? Is this why Iran is stepping in now?
Your face attack, if you will. And then Iran suffered that attack at the tomb of Qasem Soleimani earlier in the week. So Iran kind of took it on the chin a little bit this week and is trying to show some strength by continuing its standard rhetoric.
And on that note here, talking about the situation that happened in Iran, as we mentioned, it was a pair of bombings and nearly 100 people were killed. And this happening at a commemoration, a ceremony that was being held for a man who actually was killed in a U.S. drone strike. But we know that it was ISIS now. They have claimed responsibility for those bombings. Is that surprising? Is that what you would have expected?
Well, I think when we first looked and we saw the initial reporting,
so that's
this
why
came
Iran
a day
is getting
after
involved.
Israel took out the Hamas leadership in Beirut. And so everybody quickly ran to the fact that since it was on the 4th anniversary of Soleimani's death or killing, that actually it was Israel. But this did not have the initial characteristics of an Israeli strike. Too many civilians were killed in this. It wasn't surgical. And the fact that the pieces started leading to a militant group inside Iran. Now that is ISIS. ISIS, probably not too much awareness for your viewers, has long operated inside Iran. ISIS is a Sunni Muslim group. That's their basis and foundation. Iran is Shia, so you have the religious underpinnings that take place there. ISIS has operated in Iran before. Matter of fact, in 2017, they conducted some attacks similar to this, some bombings in Tehran.
So Iran got their own Hamas group that they fighting against, which is ISIS. This is very, very interesting. This is very different. This is some new news for me. Honestly, I don't pay attention to obviously what goes on outside of the US too much. This is just because I'm very interested in this war and why it's happening and what's the causes and the effects of this war, how it's affecting the economy, how it's affecting who you're voting for, how it's affecting innocent people. But this is new news right here.
And I believe they've been accused of some activity in 2022, some bombings there. So it does have all the hallmarks of an ISIS attack. They came out and they claimed that they put 2 suicide bombers in there. The reason for Qasem Soleimani, though, you got to realize that he was a pivotal figure for Iran. He ran the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force, the most elite of the elite that they had. So not only all the terrorist operations and militia operations in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, he was responsible for. Matter of fact, when we killed him, he was in the midst of planning and meeting with Iraqi officials and some Syrian officials to attack U.S. forces literally within 2 days of us killing him at that time. But he was also pivotal in working with the Syrian regime against ISIS and against the rebels. So ISIS had a place that they wanted to take him out also, but also this is a message from ISIS to Iran.
Wow.
And kind of staying in that same area here, I want to get your take on the situation, the Baghdad airstrike. What do we know about that as of right now?
A lot of war going on.
First off, I personally think it's long overdue. The United States finally took some action that was a little bit more direct. They took out the leader of HAN, which is one of the top militia groups within Iraq. It's obviously Iranian-backed. And so this leader, they took him out in a vehicle with one of his deputies driving between meetings, is my understanding of how the strike took place. So this group, HAN, was responsible actually for over half of the attacks on U.S. forces. And we've had over 120 attacks on U.S. forces in Syria and Iraq since the Hamas attacks on October 7th. So
Now I understand. If the U.S. is now getting attacked themselves, or if we're getting troops killed, then obviously we got to retaliate. But are they going into these territories looking for trouble? Are they going into these territories trying to take over? What is the true mindset of what the United States is doing on these people's territories? I don't know the full backstory, so I can't say too much about it, but I'm definitely wondering why are we even over there in the first place? Why is we fighting militia groups that maybe haven't done anything to us in particular, but maybe they've done something to our allies? Let's see. I don't know.
So when you look at that, being responsible, we had some good intelligence. We tracked them down and we took out a key leader. Now, the fallout from this could be significant. First off, this terrorist group, when we designated them a terrorist group in 2019 or 2017, this terrorist group was actually part of attacks on U.S. forces throughout. But they're also part of what's called the PMF, and that's a loose coalition of militias inside Iraq that nominally work for the Iraqi military. However, they answer more to Iran than they do the Iraqi government. So this group being a part of the PMF actually came out with strong words talking about how this was U.S. aggression on sovereign territory inside Iraq. So I think what we're going to have to see is we're going to have to get in there and start talking to people. But I do expect either HAN or Kataib Hezbollah to come back with attacks on U.S. forces throughout the region.
This is going to cause a
World War III.
War
News that we did receive a statement not too long ago, Israel confirming the death of another Israeli man who is believed to have been kidnapped by terrorists on October 7th. He is Tamir Adar, and he's seen right there in that photo, 38 years old, a resident of Kibbutz Naraz, which we know is attacked, a husband and father of 2. We've talked about this before, but is it likely that we're going to find out that more of these folks who were believed to be taken hostage are actually deceased as a result of the October 7th attack or just being in captivity?
Yeah, Josh, unfortunately, I believe you're right on this one. We are going to find out that more of the hostages are dead or were killed during the October 7th.
Honestly, at this point, I'm thinking them hostages is not coming back. There's no way. Like, they could call for peace, they could call for a treaty, they could call for truce, but the way it's looking like everybody's going. They're sending a message. They're sending a message clearly. They're sending a message, and they're telling us, we don't care what you do. We don't care how many troops you send over here. We ain't stopping. So it's either you better fight back, you better fight, or you better stand down. But somebody got to stand down.
Attacks. Now, the numbers keep fluctuating. Israel released some new numbers that put the hostage count in the 130s. I've seen it as high as 136, as low as 129. So you have to look at that. But what's disconcerting here is that they're really saying that there's only about 113 hostages alive, and Hamas is holding 24 bodies. And this comes with how they're still working through all the
They
consensus
still got a whole bunch of
finding
people
the
that's still
forensic
alive.
data and really identifying who's left. I mean, it's a terrible situation that they're still trying to work their way through. So I think we'll see these numbers fluctuate. And unfortunately, I think we're going to discover that more of the hostages are dead, and Hamas is just holding the bodies for some sort of ransom or negotiation power.
Exactly.
And as I mentioned, a lot of different.
Why would they give them back is the question. Like real talk speaking, like, why would they give them back just for nothing? You mean we took all these people, held them hostage, went to war, started a war just to give them back freely? No. That's not gonna just happen like that. Bodies gotta go. Messages have to be sent in order for them to get their point across. It's not gonna just end just like that. And I'm interested to see who else is about to join this war, how long this war is going to last for, because this is a much smaller war than Russia and Ukraine is. This one was a much smaller war. I don't know if it is anymore, but this was just a small Gaza Strip, a small Hamas group against a big country of Israel, and it's turning out to be more than what it started.
Developments that have been happening here. We also learned Israel officials are saying that Palestinians will run civilian Gaza there, the civilians after the war. What do you make of that? Because there's been kind of a back and forth there. Initially, Israel had said that they were going to control the military operations. However, folks took that to mean that they were going to try to run Gaza after the war. What do you make of all of this?
Thanks for tuning in. Leave a like for your boy.
I looked at it, that was, I believe, Defense Minister Gallant's proposal, and I would couch this as some sort of a trial balloon because it hasn't really been discussed in detail in the Israeli cabinet. I think what he was looking at was trying to put out there the idea that, number one, Israel does not want to govern Gaza. They want to turn the West Bank and Gaza completely to Palestinian control. However, they don't want Hamas in there. So you have to have Palestinian control in Gaza, the West Bank, without a Hamas, or we're just going to see a repeat of the situation. So I think what he's putting out there is, one, trying to assure everyone that Israel does not want to be a part of any kind of operation, sustained operation, nor occupation of Gaza. It's just not sustainable for the Israeli military or the Israeli government. They want to turn this over to the Palestinians. Now, I don't want to say this is dead on arrival, but the fact that Israel is saying Hamas cannot be part of any ruling coalition after the Gaza operations, Hamas is going to deny this and just say it's dead on arrival for them. So this falls on the heels of the Egyptian peace agreement or peace discussions in Cairo falling apart after Israel took out the Hamas leader in Beirut earlier in the week.
What do we expect from Antony Blinken's trip to Israel? We know that he's been there several times since the war did begin about 3 months ago. What do we expect from this visit specifically? Anything different? Is there a reasoning behind it? Do we know anything that we didn't know, let's say, a week, 2 weeks ago?
Well, I think that if you will, the stakes are a little bit higher on this visit. So we've had the assassination of the Hamas leadership in Beirut. We've had the Iranian destabilization. We've had Houthi continued operations in the Red Sea. So I think what he's trying to do is to try to re-energize in a very difficult time the peace talks that were taking place in Cairo earlier. Even as nascent as they were trying to get something moving forward. So
I heard there were some peace talks, but clearly no peace has been made yet. Hostages are still being found dead. I heard Israel is killing the innocents, not only innocent Gaza people, but they're also killing hostages in the innocent hostages. It's looking like it's not going to end well. It's not going to end in peace. It's not going to end overnight, just like Russia and Ukraine.
To some serious escalation, depending on how everybody retaliates or takes action from all the events this week. And so when we start to look at this, he's going to talk with the Palestinians. He's got to get them back in an understanding and discussion mode. So he's going to have to visit Egypt. He's going to have to go to Qatar. I think he's going to have to go back to Iraq after what we just did inside Iraq, taking out that militia leader. And then if he's going to do his job correctly, he's going to have to go into Beirut. He's going to have to start to talk there because of what Hezbollah may try to do in retaliation for the killing of the Hamas leader earlier this week. So he's going to get some frequent flyer miles in this time, but he's got to try to bring people back to the table, if you will, and tamp down the potential for escalation.
Killing of the Hamas leader is big. It is big. That is some big news, but there is going to be retaliation for that. There is definitely going to be a retaliation for that.
My last question here before I let you go. I've asked a lot of guests this question, but is Israel taking the warning from Hezbollah and their leadership that they will retaliate? Are they taking that seriously? Do they see Hezbollah as a real threat?
Well, I absolutely think they do. And I think Israel has been countering each Hezbollah attack with a similar response, if you will. No escalation in that. Israel has reached out repeatedly over the last 3 to 4 weeks, trying to reach a diplomatic solution with Hezbollah. Now, the attack on the Hamas leader in Beirut, that is a definite smack in the face to Hezbollah because he was in an enclave, if you will, that was Hezbollah controlled. And he was a key negotiator, mediator, and conduit between Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. So this guy was very critical to all the operations that are taking place in Hamas and all the work, backdoor work, if you will, between Iran, Hezbollah, and that. So what Israel's trying to do is let's negotiate this. Let's get back to a position where you're not going to attack us, Hezbollah, and we won't attack you. But I think right now it's very tenuous, and we're just going to have to see what the coming days go as to how Hezbollah responds. But Israel's ready to go if they need to attack attack Hezbollah, excuse me.
All right, Mark Chandler, a true expert, a friend of the show.
Israel's about to enter into another war with Hezbollah, which is another militia group. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So now they're getting hit from both sides.
You're always great providing expertise and breaking down those developments. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Well, Josh, I think we need to talk about the Houthis just real quick because yesterday we saw a change in their tactics. And so, again, the Houthis don't have great technology, so we know Iran is behind what the Houthis are doing, at least technologically, planning and the execution aspects of their attacks in the Red Sea. So yesterday, the Fifth Fleet commander came out and said that we are giving our sternest warnings to the Houthis to stop these attacks. But at the same time, the Houthis tried an unmanned explosive-laden boat to go out into the shipping lanes of the Red Sea and explode. Fortunately, it was not successful in taking down any ships. But we haven't seen any lessening of attacks by the Houthis in the Bab el-Mandeb or in the Red Sea itself. So until there's some sort of strong military action against those sites that are launching the missiles and launching the UAVs, I think what we're going to see is Houthis continue this, and now they're putting a new wrinkle in that. And earlier in the week, Iran said that they were going to put a warship in the Red Sea. So I think what you're going to look at here is a lot of potential escalation in the Red Sea unless there is a strong deterrent action taken by the United States, the United Kingdom, or someone against those launch sites in Yemen.
All right, Mark, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and help break down all of this. There are these major developments that are happening. I always say it pretty much on an hourly basis or so. So thank you again for taking the
Wow. 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 Well, that is very, very interesting stuff. Looks like we got more wars to come in 2024. It's not going to slow down. It is actually going to pick up. So make sure you are guarded up, because we don't know what is going to happen this year. We don't know who is going to attack the U.S. this year. We don't know if they will attack the U.S., but we don't know if they won't attack the U.S., because they are also letting in a lot of people without a lot of background checking into the country right now. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens in the next couple months with these wars. Is there a World War III coming? I don't want to say I know, but the way things are looking, it's looking like it. So I'm going to get prepared as I can get prepared. I don't know what that is yet at the moment, but I will work on it. Hopefully you do the same. We are past an hour on the live stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys, for everyone that tuned in, whether it was for 2 seconds, whether it's for a minute, whether it's for the whole hour, whether it's for 5 minutes. I appreciate you guys for stopping in. If you made it this far, please leave a like. Comment if you're with your boy. Hit that subscribe button if you're messing with us and if you're rocking with us. We appreciate you on this side. Check the link in the descriptions to follow me on IG, to check out my clothing brand. With that being said, it is time to get some rest for the next day. Tonight is going to be a snowstorm, so we about to have to shovel and stuff tomorrow. That's pretty exciting, of course. But yeah, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Until next time, peace.